A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
4 people killed as express train crushes car in Perpetual. Another fatal accident prevented by the breadth of a hair. Civil organizations voice opposition to the supplementary estimate for ministers' vehicles. Irregularities in the Education Ministry under the guise of providing free school uniforms. An Action TV expose. Cuba's revolutionary leader Fidel Castro bids a final farewell. Condolences pour in from world leaders. Sri Lanka beat Zimbabwe to win their first ODI tournament since 2014.
Cuba is mourning the death of his revolutionary leader Fidel Castro, who was viewed as a man who stood up to America during the Cold War and returned Cuba to the people.
Cuban students waving flags broke into a mass chant of quote-unquote "I am Fidel" to salute Fidel Castro as 9 days of mourning began for the Cold War icon who dominated the island's political life for generations. Alcohol sales were suspended, flags flew at half-staff and shows and concerts were cancelled after his younger brother and successor, President Raul Castro, told the country that Fidel had died without giving a cause of death. Giant rallies are planned in Havana's Revolution Square and in the eastern city of Santiago to honor Castro, who died aged 90, 6 decades after the brothers set out from Mexico to overthrow the government of Fulgencio Batista. Castro's remains were cremated and his ashes will be taken around Cuba until a state funeral on the 4th of December. Diplomatic officials said foreign dignitaries will arrive by Tuesday for a memorial service to be held in Revolution Square that evening. There will be no top-level games of baseball, Castro's passion after politics, for the 9-day period of mourning, the Sports National Federation declared. Born on the 13th of August 1926, Fidel Castro was one of the few world leaders who stood up to the United States, which had exploited the largest island in the Caribbean ever since it won independence from Spain in 1898. Russian President Vladimir Putin described Castro as a sincere and reliable friend of Russia, while Mikhail Gorbachev, the former Soviet leader, praised him for standing up to US pressure. Russia, which has retained its relations with Cuba since the fall of Soviet Union in 1991, had perceived Castro as a world leader of Third World socialism throughout the Cold War. Chinese President Xi Jinping said in a statement that the Chinese people have lost a close comrade and a sincere friend. India was one of the first countries to recognize Cuba after the revolution. Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, said his nation is mourning the loss of a great friend. Issuing a message of condolence, President Maithripala Sirisena said Sri Lanka joins hands with the grieving people of Cuba on the passing of an iconic leader. In a message on Twitter, the president said, quote, "The iconic leader of an era of revolution bids farewell to the world. Rest in peace, Comrade Fidel Castro." Unquote. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe too issued a message of condolence in which he expressed appreciation for Castro's support to Sri Lanka on the international stage following the establishment of diplomatic ties in 1959. Prime Minister Wickremesinghe said the late Fidel Castro will go down as one of the greatest leaders of the hemisphere. Opposition leader R. Sambandhan said in a message of condolence that Castro's service and commitment to the welfare of his people is immortal.
Social scientists tell us that revolutionary leaders like Castro, regardless of our opinions on their methods, rose to topple a corrupt and a nepotistic system which placed the interest and profits of an exclusive group above the best interest and well-being of the people. Tonight on Action TV, we expose a similar situation which has arisen in our own country under the free school uniform program.
Last year, the Education Ministry opted for a coupon system to replace the provision of free school uniforms so parents could purchase the required material externally. The coupon system was introduced through notices published in newspapers. The Editorial, which sung the praises of the coupon system and its advantages to both school children and traders, identified the traders as Mudalali Mama or Mudalali Uncle. However, as per this letter from the Education Secretary exposed by Action TV yesterday, the Mudalali uncles in the towns and villages will not benefit from the coupon system next year. This letter, addressed to all provincial and zonal education directors and school principals, requests their support for a scheme to sell uniform material apparently sold at a competitive price by Lanka Salusala to school children in rural, remote and isolated schools. There are about 4,000 schools in the country which fall into this categorization. Nevertheless, Lanka Salusala does not appear to be involved in any sort of operation to sell uniform material at a competitive price. 198 employees of Lanka Salusala opted for the voluntary retirement scheme offered by the Yahapalne government, which has resulted in the organization's human resource pool being reduced to 19 employees. In order to pay the wages of these 19 employees for the past 3 months, Lanka Salusala has only been engaged in minor day-to-day trade. Over the past 22 months, under the Yahapalne government, the Treasury has not provided even a cent of working capital for Lanka Salusala. This highlights the false nature of this letter with regard to what it says about Lanka Salusala providing material. Through this false letter, what the Education Secretary has actually done is create a market for an Indian company and its local agent. Masquerading under the reputation of Lanka Salusala, the local agent of the Indian company goes to these 4,000 schools and provides material to sew uniforms instead of the aforementioned coupons. The material is being cut and packaged in Piliyandala at present. The local agent in question, masquerading under the name of Lanka Salusala, imported 468,000 meters of cloth last year, which he was unable to distribute. This cloth and a further 2 million meters imported this year will now be distributed among over 4,000 schools in exchange for the coupons provided by the ministry. This amounts to a more unethical, ugly and fraudulent scheme than what was created through the coupon system. By misusing the name of Lanka Salusala, the Ministry of Education has paved the way for an Indian corporation and its local agent to be paid a large sum of public funds without being selected through a competitive procurement process. Will authorities and officials who have exploited a loophole to prevent any intervention from the Independent Commission on Procurements in order to make massive profits continue to receive the blessings of the Yahapalne government? Secretary to the President, over to you.
The supplementary estimate of 790 million rupees that was presented in Parliament, which included the purchasing of vehicles for ministers, has come under heavy criticism from civil society organizations.
Two supplementary estimates of 790 million, which included the purchasing of vehicles for ministers, were presented in Parliament by the Leader of the House, Minister Lakshman Kiriyalla, yesterday. Parliamentary approval was sought to purchase vehicles for 7 ministers, 12 deputy ministers, 8 state ministers and the opposition leader at an amount of 791.5 million rupees. Civil society organizations expressed the following views on the proposal. We are told that if you overtake a vehicle from the left, the fine will be 25,000 rupees. You must pay these fines. The VAT needs to be paid. The belts need to be tightened. The Rajapaksas have extorted, saying that they need to do certain things. The print and electronic media has a responsibility to reveal who these ministers are, who will be bringing in vehicles worth 790 million rupees. Don't these people have vehicles already to travel about? We tell the government, do not carry out these useless tasks. It won't be long before we will have to smash coconuts opposite the Parliament.
For much of our post-independence history, our nation has attracted the most unflattering of labels: war-torn, third world, crime-ridden, and more politically correctly, developing. It would seem that we have stagnated in a state of eternally developing, but never developed. Why? This is the focus of this week's News First editorial.
The News First editorial.
With the passing of Cuban revolutionary leader Fidel Castro, there is much that we, as a people who have faced 2 youth armed uprisings and a 3-decade-long internal conflict, must consider. The constant struggle to live faced by the citizens of Sri Lanka continues to grow by the minute, hour and day. While the uprisings of 1971 and 1988-89 and the 3-decade-long war decimated our country's progress, who should be held responsible now for depriving our people of the opportunity for development? Do we know who they are? Isn't it about time we launched our own silent revolution to expose the enemies of the state and serve justice? While rural Sri Lanka was described as war-torn for much of our post-independence history, the destruction of reservoirs, anecots, bridges, roads and canals in the present has not been caused by machines of war. Rather, this is a more sinister destruction caused by an arbitrary and lethargic administration, a monster that feeds off the livelihoods of our people. Though a massive proportion of public wealth is allocated for the maintenance of the country's reservoirs, most of what has been done in the guise of maintenance is a mere facade, grounded in deceitful motives. The fractured concrete beams, the washed away cement and the dented rusty iron rods bear testament to the substandard renovation of our country's infrastructure. While villagers lament that renovated roads are washed away with the onset of the next rainy season, elephant fences that appear to be the only solution authorities have for the human-elephant conflict fail to meet even the standard of a rudimentary clothesline. Are the people being forced to walk several miles to fetch a pail of water because of the consequences of the uprisings of the 70s and 80s and the war? Can we continue to blame the armed conflicts we have faced for the despondence of day-to-day life of ordinary Sri Lankans? No. Sri Lankans must come to the collective realization that ignominious rulers who continue to cling to power like leeches, sucking the lifeblood of our nation, have done far more grievous harm to our young republic than any uprising or conflict. While their gangs of thieves are granted contracts to build roads, who are they stealing from when they skim off the gravel, the tar, the sand, the cement and the paving stones? The time has come for a silent revolution. We must consider if the Batistas of the 21st century have been born in Sri Lanka. Unscrupulous leaders whose lust for power and wealth deprives your children of any future worth mentioning. Consider a simple example. A 1 kilometer stretch of road leading to Bisso Manike's home has been carpeted and white lines have been painted on either side. While construction standards would demand that a road in a residential area be built with some sort of drainage system, such thinking was absent in the planning of this road, either by design or by neglect. Nevertheless, consider the vast sums of money allocated for these projects, and whether it is by design or neglect becomes immediately evident. A kilometer of road is resurfaced and the money allocated for the concrete drains, paving stones and streetlights is spirited away to the unknown. This is just 1 kilometer of road. What happens when the road is 100 kilometers long? How much is stolen then? What happens to the hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of rupees allocated for these vast projects which always seem to come up short of the initial design? As we celebrate the memory of revolutionaries past and contemplate on the challenges of the present, let us also reflect on the words of Ernesto Che Guevara. The revolution is not an apple that falls when it is ripe. You have to make it fall. Let's join hands to bring about the silent development revolution.
The people of Pankulam in Muravava Trincomalee reaped another benefit today under the Gamma the Savio program.
The Savio.
For several years, the people of Pankulama were forced to fulfill their water needs by digging holes in the ground which yielded brackish water, which posed serious health complications for the villagers. Having listened to their woes, Newsfirst, together with Brandix Lanka Private Limited, initiated the Pankulama Water Project. The project, which was completed in 55 days, was entrusted to the community today amid tears of joy. The water tank and pipeline system was constructed through this project, supplying water to the entire village. The Gammadda initiative has highlighted a simple truth. If we have the will and if we place our faith in the leadership of the youth, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. We do not need to clamour for provisions through the budget, and we do not need to go to parliament. We do not need to suffer the bureaucracy. Gammadda was formed around you and for you. We have reaped nothing from it. We will not get a seat in parliament for this. We will not get a car permit that we can sell for 25 million. The only benefit of all these efforts is that we get to see the happy faces of the people we have helped. I have a son. I would like to see my son lead a better life than I did. I am certain that the parents here have the same aspiration. Is there anyone who does not want to see this happen? No. We all want a better future for our children.
මාධ්‍ය තුලින් අපි සමහර විට අදහස් කරන්නේ
At times, all we expect from the media is the exchange of information. But the Sirasa Media Network has gone beyond the boundaries we have defined for the media and has engaged in social service, which brings us great happiness. We must express our gratitude to Sirasa by pledging to protect the water project gifted to the village, as if our lives depend on it.
I am very happy that this project was launched in our village. All of us are grateful for what you have done.
We cannot measure this with money. The happiness cannot be put into words. What you have done for us in this village is a good deed. Sirasa does not follow the traditional path. Sirasa has always superseded tradition. Through Sirasa, we can witness not only the rhythm of the youth, but also due recognition for people who live in shacks and on 1 square meal a day. That is why Sirasa came to Moravava.
Come at the Savia.
The 35th anniversary of the Employees Trust Fund was held at the Bandaranaike Memorial International Conference Hall today under the auspices of President Maithripala Sirisena. 11 of the best employees were handed special awards based on their evaluations. In line with the 35th anniversary celebrations, a commemorative stamp and a first-day cover were issued. The Employees Trust Fund, which was initiated by former Minister Lalit Atulat Mudali, commenced on the 1st of March 1981. Financial aid was handed over by the President at the event to 2 patients awaiting kidney transplant surgery.
There were 3 prominent figures in the legal profession who were gifted to our country's political sphere through the University of Oxford. One of them is SWRD Bandaranaike. The second is Lalit Atulat Mudali, and the third is former Minister Lakshman Kalitagamath. The fate which rested with all 3 of them was the bullet. In politics, there is no difference in the fate that lies in a person who works for the best interests of the public. The only difference is the gun from which the bullet comes from. Just as we said during the previous regime, we were able to abolish the judicial powers vested in the executive presidential systems through the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. The reason we were successful in doing so is because a person like Maithripala Sirisena, who was willing to let go of the powers he had, unlike any other world leader has ever done, was elected as president of this country.
On to another one of our headline-making stories. 5 people were killed when a car collided with a train in the Vadua area today.
Police said that the accident occurred when the car collided with an express train travelling from Mathura to Colombo at the Pothupitia level crossing. A minor accident was reported in the Hunupitia area in Wattala this morning when a lorry collided with a train at a level crossing. Due to a mechanical failure, the lorry had stopped on the level crossing. Just when the driver was going to cross the level crossing, something happened to the silencer. Our correspondent reported that area residents attempted to move the lorry away from the railway line before the arrival of the train. However, it had proven to be futile. A 3-wheeler driver who was in the vicinity had acted fast in order to prevent a major accident.
The lorry had stopped in the middle of the road. A person ran with a red flag in his hand. The train then slowed down.
A motorcyclist was killed in an accident in the Malkadua area in Kurunagala last night when the motorbike the victim was travelling on collided with a lorry. The victim, a married 33-year-old man, was a resident of Doretiava. Police noted that the accident had occurred when a lorry travelling from Narammala to Kurunagala attempted to overtake the motorbike. A 3-wheeler met with an accident when it skidded off an unprotected bridge on the Yalkamura-Madagama road in Bibile. Our correspondent reported that 2 people who were travelling in the 3-wheeler were admitted to the Madagama hospital with injuries, while one with serious injuries had been transferred to the Munaragala base hospital. Area residents say that a dangerous situation has arisen due to the bridge being incomplete.
The Government Medical Officers Association commented today on the financial grant that has been requested by the government from tobacco companies.
Ravi Karunanaike has said, actually he has threatened, that if the 500 million allocated for the President's fund is not taken from the tobacco companies, then the allocation for health will be cut. What is the basis for this? In another instance, he said that less allocations have been made for education, but he will disperse funds whenever it is needed. There is a contradiction here. On the one hand, he says he is prepared to disperse funds at any time, and on the other hand, he says he cannot allocate funds. The only thing the finance minister is saying is that the president's fund can only be strengthened by taking money from tobacco companies.
Minister of Health Dr. Rajendra Sinaratne meanwhile expressed the following views.
We have denied that. We cannot accept such donations. This is something the finance minister has done unknowingly. We have ratified the FCTC agreement of the World Health Organization. We have made a vow that we will not accept any donation from tobacco companies. Therefore, we will not accept that amount. I held a discussion with the Minister of Finance last week and I said in Parliament that we cannot accept this money because it is not ethical. The finance minister might accept that amount as tax. Then there is no issue there. The Minister of Health expressed these views at a march organized from Independence Square to the Public Library in Colombo to raise awareness on a fund for children who are suffering from scoliosis, which is an abnormality of the spine.
SLFP seniors called on the chief prelates of the Askidi and Malwatu chapters and informed the most venerable Theras about the constitutional reform process.
The group first arrived at the temple of the Tooth Relic and obtained blessings. Thereafter they visited the chief prelate of the Askidi chapter, Most Venerable Valakagota Sri Yanawatana Thera, and chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuwabe Sri Sumangala Thera, and apprised them on the proposed constitutional amendments. As the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we have a very clear stance. We do not want to change the prominence given to Buddhism. This constitution will not be passed without our votes. The section on the unitary state should remain as it is. The place for Buddhism would not be changed. We will not raise our hands for anything of that nature. Venerable Thero, our plan is to complete the delimitation appeals process soon and hold elections.
Material aid was handed over to multiple welfare societies under the auspices of Minister of Plantation Industries Navin Dissanayake in Walapane this morning. Now, speaking at the event, the minister made the following observations.
Even the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed a district leader and handed the individual the appointment letter. The members have not come together. I always hope that we could all get together and take this forward. But if they are not willing to gather as one, then there is nothing I can do. I will continue on my journey. This sort of situation does not even exist in our own party. Our party leader is taking things to the next stage. We have Sajid Premadasa, Akila Viraj, Sagala Ratnayaka, Harin Fernando. There are many individuals taking things to the next stage, but I do not know who will rise from there.
The joint opposition convened an electorate council meeting in Minuangoda today.
Perpetual Treasuries license cancel.
Up to date, the license of Perpetual Treasuries has not been cancelled, at least temporarily. The entire country and the world knows that Perpetual Treasuries earned a profit of 10 billion rupees in broad daylight. The country is also aware that this money is now being used for various tasks in order to change the public's opinion. Perpetual Treasuries has purchased several banks with this money. According to the information that we have received, they are going to take over a media institution with this money. At the same time, you from the print media have opportunities of joining them for a very high salary which may come up to 1 million rupees. It would be ideal if they name the media institution as bond. At the very least, the central bank has a duty to protect its credibility. Temporarily withhold the license of Perpetual Treasuries.
මේ Perpetual Treasuries සමාගමේ බලපත්‍රය తాවකාලිකව අත්හිටවන්න.
Addressing a media briefing today, parliamentarian Bandula Gunwardana expressed those views. Speaking in Karuanawa today, UNP parliamentarian Mayantha Dissanayake had this to say.
Recently, I saw Basil Rajapaksa speaking on TV. He said that around 70 to 75 MPs are with the new party. Mahinda Rajapaksa's political program has come to a complete standstill. It has been rejected by the people and it has been thrown into the dustbin. During his tenure, Mahinda Rajapaksa split all the political parties. He tried to split the UNP and the Muslim Congress too. Some attempts were successful. However, the current state of Mahinda Rajapaksa and his team is a consequence of those deeds.
The joint opposition convened an electorate council meeting in Minwangwada today.
At the meeting, party supporters pledged to appoint former President Mahinda Rajapaksa as the leader of the new party. At the rate this is going, the SLFP will be dissolved soon. There are no supporters at the village level. Apart from the crowds who are brought with promises of employment, goods and money, the true SLFPers are all with Mahinda. With this situation, the SLFP will never be able to survive. Those who were rejected by the people were entered into the national list. They are the ones who talk about this new force of the people. Those who have made deals with the government tell us that we try to make deals.
And in sports news, Sri Lanka beat Zimbabwe by 6 wickets to win the Tri-Nation ODI series against host and the West Indies. Nico Rosberg has won his maiden Formula One World Championship. Needing to finish in the top 3 in today's final race of the season in Abu Dhabi, he was second to his Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton, but he had to survive a scary few final laps as the outgoing champion ignored team orders and attempted to back Rosberg into the cars behind. The result means Rosberg has won by title by 5 points. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.